Call to order the regular school boarding meeting of USD 464 for Monday, December 9th. At this time, if everyone would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we got a crowded house. First thing we need to do is a motion to approve the agenda, or I know there's some possible changes.
I make a motion to amend the agenda and move action item 5 to before action item 4. So it'll appear just before 5 or before 4. And then also take 2.6 out of the consent agenda and move it to the action items.
Okay, is there any discussion? Is there a second on that motion?
I second that.
All in favor of amending the agenda? All right. Motion carried. All right. With that, we'll move on to our champion Battle of the Brains team. I'm not sure who I'm supposed to call forward here, Mrs.
We're here today to explain what Battle of the Brains is and how the competition went and a little bit about our project that we did. So Battle of the Brains is a contest that Burns and McDonnell puts on. Burns and McDonnell is an engineering company, and what you do is each team from elementary school, middle school, or high school, you would design an exhibit that could be put in Science City, and if you win, you get a $50,000 grant for STEM education. So we did win. So we got the grant, and our exhibit's going to be built in Science City. So the first step to making your proposal is you just find a topic. The topic we chose was carnival games. So we wrote our proposal up, and there was over 840 proposals, and then they chose the top 20 out of those 840 to go on to the next round. So we found out that we were in the top 20, and so a bus came, and that happened. We were called out of the class, and they told us that we were in the top 20. And so then they gave us the date of December 4th, which is when the award ceremony was, to find out who won. So we went there on December 4th. It was an all-day thing. And so we got there, and so they had each team introduce themselves and say what their exhibit was. So our team came on and said, we're Tonganoxie Middle School with Step Right Up. And they had each team do that. And after that, once everyone was seated, they started with fifth place and worked their way up, announcing who the winners were. Fifth place got $10,000, and the sum of money kept increasing with each place. Then they announced first place, and for the rest of the day, then they announced first place, and we went up on stage and kind of celebrated.
Could you do me a favor? Could you each introduce yourselves, or so we all know who's on your team?
I'm Ella Pruitt.
I'm Joshua Duvall.
I'm Lauren Penn.
I'm Wesley Johnson.
I'm Caleb Hodges. Jamison Brightsman. And Lucy Bergman. She's also on our team, but she's not here tonight.
Thank you. Sorry if I interrupted you.
And I'm going to have Josh talk about first place.
Alright, so as we said, our proposal was carnival games, and we will be talking about like the physics behind them, like center of mass, acceleration, a bunch of STEM stuff. One of our exhibits is like the milk bottle or milk bottle throwing, where one part of that exhibit try to knock them down. And that displays center of mass once again, plus acceleration.
So our exhibit is about carnival games, as you heard, and it was mostly about how people take the physics behind it and then use it to their advantage to make you lose it more often than you do. And part of it is because people play basketball. One was a basketball game, and people play basketball a lot. So it's not a normal shot like you would have it. So they changed it to where it's either farther or it has like a smaller hoop or a deflated ball. And they use all those things to just make you lose more.
So I think, well, when they did, as Ella was saying, when they did call us, they did start with 5th place, 4th place, 3rd place, 2nd place. And when 2nd place wasn't us, I said, well, good job guys, maybe next time. And then we hear, and the winners come from a town called Tonganoxie. And we all just kind of stood up and went, and we just kind of stood there for a while, and then we waited to see what happened, just making sure that that's really what happened. And no one said anything, so then we kind of started to cautiously walk towards the stage, and then there were a bunch of pictures and streamers, all that. But it was pretty cool. And then when we got back, everyone was out around on the drive to the middle school, and they were all screaming and shouting, and it was awesome. So.
So when we got there, we came in a small little Tonganoxie there, and when we get out, we look around and we see at least 3 or 4 big yellow school buses with kids, teams twice our size, piling out and walking down this little red carpet. And I think we were all kind of intimidated. I mean, these teams are a lot larger, so they would have been able to work on a lot more in the time that they had. So, I mean, I think a lot of us were hoping to get in the top 5. But, I mean, winning was not something that I think was all, like, we had this done. So when we got in there, we walked into the room, and we had this big group of people who were there to congratulate us. And, I mean, that was a really cool experience to have people, congratulate us for making it to the top 20. We got somebody to help show us around, and they brought us to the table where we got some breakfast and drinks, and we went backstage to go hang out for a little bit before the ceremonies began. We got up there, and we were last to be called onto the podium to say our name, our idea, and then come sit down. And we sat in the back row too, kind of hiding by a bunch of high schoolers, just a little small team. So yeah, for the first 4 times, I think we were all hoping, please call us, please call us. And they say number 2, and it wasn't us, and it hasn't been us at all. So we were worried, as Caleb said, we'll get it next time. So number 1 comes around, and there's a lot of suspense, a lot of build up. They get the CEO of Union Station to come up and announce it, and it's big, real suspense. Still 16 teams are hoping to win this. And then, slowly but surely, they announce it, Tonganoxie Middle School, with Step Right Up. And I think everybody's face was just astonished. It's unbelievable that we made it to the top 20, let alone first place, $50,000. We went back up onto the stage, we celebrated, got pictures. Me and Ella had interviews. I think Wesley also had interviews with news stations. Once we got back, we had the whole entire middle school out there and ready. They congratulated us. We did a little victory lap. and the newspaper gave interviews to Lauren and Kayla, just asking about how it went. But yeah, it was a really just incredible day and really shocking, just really one of the best days of my life.
So, like he said, we were all very surprised that we won, at least I was. So, we're going to be working with engineers, architects, and a lot of different people from Burns and McDonald to really make our exhibit, Step Right Up, come to life. We are going to meet with them before the holiday break, I believe. And it's going to take about a year to get our exhibit fully done and built. And it's just an amazing experience because we went to Science City to study the exhibits, and they were really amazing. It's pretty unreal to think that soon ours will be one of them. But yes, we're going to meet with the architects and build it, and I hope that at least some of you were able to come to Science City and see it when it's finished.
Thank you. Coach, any words?
Nope, I think they summed it all up. It was a great day.
Well, I mean, congrats on behalf of the district, the board, the community, and everything. That's awesome. And I'm sure, can't necessarily speak for everybody, but I'm pretty sure that when we did this, you probably know that I think 2 years ago they got 4th. And I know you got that big check in your hand, and the kids did a lot. Your ideas will be what helps drive how that money's spent, so you can build that into your plans as well.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you, parents and everyone. You got enough pictures of them, Sean?
They're so well spoken in front of the
That was impressive. All right, next up, Lori.
Well, I'm not near as exciting, sorry. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna go over is capital outlay. This is always something that I think is good to update every so often and let you know what's happening. So the first paper that you have is at the top, a list of projects or purchases that we've done so far in the school year 1920 that are kind of outside of our normal everyday operations. And it shows you the amounts that we've spent on those. You'll see that there's 3 of them that were paid for partly by grants. Some of them half paid for by grants and so on. And then there's a total. So I don't have to read the whole list to you, but if you have any questions about any of those, feel free to let me know. So you can see that we've had quite a bit of improvements and purchases this year to kind of get everything up to speed. Because of that, that explains a little bit of the next section. You can see the beginning cash balance that we started the year with, the $1,691,000, and then our estimated revenue that we are estimating to come in this year is $1,554,000. And our projected expenses, which are sort of projected out, it's kind of my best guess projection, considering what we've spent so far this year, what I think we'll be at by the end of the year. And I've got that at $1,722,000. So that will leave our ending cash balance at $1,524,000 at the end of the year. That's what I'm projecting, which means we will have spent down about $167,000 out of our just kind of cash reserves in capital outlay. projects or big purchases coming down the pipeline for this year. I think we've discussed, I think we're really slowing down now. We've done the improvements, we've bought the things we needed to purchase, and so the plan is to really slow it down and kind of go back to, I don't know if business as usual is the word, but, so.
More conservative.
Yeah, kind of go back to our just spending with our everyday operations. So I'm comfortable with the goal of having 1.5 million in our cash, as a cash balance at the end of the year. And I think that's very doable as long as we don't have any other big items this year. Below that, I kind of outlined why I'd like to build that back up. And rather than spending some of that cash, I want to build it back up because we have some things coming down the line, which you guys are all aware of, that I'm thinking we'll probably need capital outlay for, which is possibly the West Campus renovations, the transportation building and compound, like bus barn. And then we've also, Lauren and I discussed kind of, there's the lights at the athletic field are probably going to be on the someday concern list, I guess. So those are reasons that I think we really need to focus on building that cash back up so we're prepared and ready for those things as they happen. The only thing that I didn't have budgeted that might be coming down the line, I think, is another maintenance truck with blade for snow removal. Of course, you know now that we've purchased that equipment, it's not going to snow this. Do you guys have any questions about any of that?
Other than these large purchases, what's the capital outlay is mainly for the indebtedness payments we have, for the train, turf?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any other just and then some other maintenance items?
There is, and I don't think I have it in front of me, that fund, but there's some salaries that come out of that, maintenance salaries, electricity, the utilities, some of the utilities come out of that. There's some district-wide equipment as needed. Technology is part of that budget, so like software and equipment.
Yeah, I didn't really need it itemized. I just want to make sure everyone knew it's not just those items. There's other things that come out of there on a regular basis.
Yes, that we need for everyday operations. Yeah, absolutely. The next page, if you guys don't have questions about that, the next page, I think I'm pretty excited about actually. You'll see at the top the capital outlay indebtedness. So these are the payments that we make each year, and at the bottom is what we've paid off just this year. We've already been able to pay off the 2 large buses, the technology upgrade, 2 wheelchair buses, and 4 small buses. That's all paid off this year. So what we're left with basically is the train, energy systems, which it's on there twice just because we pay it twice a year. We have 2 payments due. And then the turf that we just started, which that first payment is not due until December 1st of 2020.
How much of the train, because part of that we want to try to clear off with the bond, or before would they do demo work and all that? I don't know how much we have outstanding. There's only like 1 or 2 more payments left in there.
Actually, if we continue on the way we are, it wouldn't pay off until 2022, the beginning of 2022. Because we did make 1 extra payment last year. And then we plan to make an extra payment this year. But we're going to wait until the end of the year just
See where we're at.
Yeah. It would be nice, but
that's not built into your projections, 2 payments in there.
it is, yes.
2 payments, but not 3.
I'm sorry, yes. 2
We're
payments.
required to make 2? Or?
We're required to make 2. We're planning to make 3.
Or, yeah.
To apply it just straight to principal. And pay that down. anything else you wanna know about?
On the capital outlay, we're going to be down a little because of the investments we've made this year in some equipment and some things like that. But how is it, over a 5-year trend? Are we, based upon the growth of the district and that kind of stuff, that ratio of that fund against the growth, are we trending? I'm just trying to get a baseline to say, okay, if we were ahead of that curve and higher than going down a little bit now, you'd say, okay, well we're within a range that we're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, I feel comfortable with what's been built up over the years.
Yeah.
I think that I didn't look year to year specifically whether we spent cash down or not. But, and I don't know how to compare it, like what other districts, I haven't asked other districts what they have, but Lauren and I have discussed, it's a pretty comfortable amount that we have. I don't foresee in the future needing to spend more cash. I feel like this year was the biggest year of purchases and projects, I think.
So are you kind of asking like 5 years down the road, are you projecting us to have a larger cash balance, or?
No, it's just with some of the stuff, it's like how much is considered adequate and where are you, what's, kind of this, I can imagine there's this area where it's like, okay, we're in the green zone, and then you get into the yellow where you're like, hey, we're a little bit light compared to where we should be based on our size and our
I've
commitments.
tried to kind of get that, whether there's a percentage that each district should have, and it's so different because, number one, it depends on how old your buildings are.
Yes.
How old is your HVAC, what kinds of things you plan on spending out of capital outlay, are you going to be building something and paying cash out of capital outlay for it? So it just varies, I think, so much that I haven't found a standard, you should have this much in your cash reserves.
That's why I was like asking it, because that is so difficult. About the only thing I'm thinking you could do is say, hey, here's where we've been at historically, and it has proven to be enough. And then, therefore, if we continue along that, we expect it to still continue to be enough. It's, adjusted for growth.
Sure. And I can certainly look at like the past 5 years and kind of see what those cash balances were. I think that it just slowly, gradually increased. We were able to roll over more each year.
I'm pretty sure, I don't have the numbers, but I think we've been on a increasing trend, and that's kind of why we had the need to spend some things this year.
Yeah.
But I think what it probably feeds into is, you guys have we had the capital outlay kind of a plan, and then you kind of looking at revisiting kind of what our needs are, so then we can project out what the big items we got to replace are, and have that built into the budget. So then it gives us a better idea what the number is that we got to have for our emergencies.
And obviously that all changed with the passing of the bond issue. It changed a lot of the work that Tanya and others had done over a couple, 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I think we talked about one of the just at the high school, some of the things that are going to be replaced as part of the bond. So for everybody knows is if you see something that's small and it doesn't have to be fixed right now because it could be demoed here soon, it's not getting replaced at the moment. So just so people.
Thank you very much.
I don't have any questions on that. I don't know if there's any questions. You attached the cash balances report. I don't know if you were going to go over the cash balances report thing or not.
I didn't give myself a copy of that, but I certainly could go over it. One of the things, I think the only things I would touch on there is kind of, you had a question about our general fund. If you look at the percentage,
The supplemental general looks kind of like a high percent spent.
Yes, and the reason for that is because we encumber, so that takes into account not only what we've already spent, but what we've encumbered. And encumbered means that we know it's gonna be spent, so we go ahead and pull it out of there. So we encumber all of our utilities for the whole year, what we expect to spend. We do that in the beginning of the year. So that throws that percentage off a little bit because It makes it heavier in the beginning of the year. So I'm very comfortable with that. I took out utilities and the things that we have encumbered that are gonna be happening in the future, and it put us at like 42%. So, and then the capital outlay, that's sort of, like I said, this list is all the things we've already done out of capital outlay, and now we're planning on not doing any more big projects or purchases, so, that should even out as well. I'm not concerned.
Yeah, I don't think.
But, you know, to answer, we're very comfortable with our general fund and LOB at this time. And of course, as you mentioned, there's already some things budgeted out of both.
Yeah, that
But
we've been.
I think we're on a good track for year end. But we are gonna do a mid-year, projection next month, after the first of the year, to get a 6-month projection. So probably have Lori come back and give a quick report on that. That's our plan.
And I might just mention, because I emailed you too about, I mean, we're gonna work on, I mean, you see on here bond expenditures from the proceeds, because all that money came in November. But that's some of the expenses for setting up the investments that you said actually, it's not on the warrant list because the checks haven't been necessarily
Or
written.
like Moody's, the rating agency, those types of expenses, we haven't actually paid those. It's been paid out of, Security Bank has taken care of that. They call it cost of issuance. So it is a little, you wouldn't see those expenses on the warrant list because we didn't cut the checks.
But we'll work on some kind of reporting going forward so that,
Yeah.
you know, as money flows out of there, we gotta track that. It kind of feeds into the other report. You'll notice now I don't remember what the report's called, the one with all the pledging, and
Oh, the secured,
we might separate that out as a separate one too, because that'll vary every month as draws are made.
I have some tweaking to do on that, and maybe, yeah, because it's not real clear. It's not real easy to just explain in one line. But yeah, I think there's some improving to do on that in the bond tracking. So if you guys have any input or any requests on how you see that each month, feel free to let me know. I'll try to make it as easy as possible, clear as possible.
Any other questions for Lori? Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Mr. Farrar and your team.
Well, we didn't win $50,000, but we are proud of those kids. Can't wait till we get in high school. All right, thank you for letting us come and talk a little bit about our VOAG program and what we believe is a need to add a teacher in our VOAG program and FFA. As you know, this is one of the more popular areas of THS. We've got a lot of kids that are interested, not just from this community, but kids from surrounding communities that are constantly knocking on our doors, wanting to get into our program. I think a good place to start would be with the Intro to Ag classes that are constantly full, and we're turning kids away. I've had numerous kids and parents contact me frustrated that they couldn't get their kid into the class. It's our goal to have this opportunity for all of our kids. Adding a VOAG teacher would open the door for that. We could easily fill, right now we have 2 sections of Intro to Agriculture. We could easily fill 4 sections. That's a requirement for kids to take the next step, which is to go a little bit deeper. In animal science classes, ag welding classes, ag communication, ag business. Before you take any of that, you got to take Intro to Ag. So this would provide a lot more opportunities for our kids. Right now, Tony Maurer is teaching he's teaching ag welding. Welding 2.
And ag fab.
And ag fab. And what that does is it doesn't allow him to grow his CTE program. So we're trying to pick up the slack with him. We would like to have a VOAC teacher teach that class so that he can focus on other things that are more relevant to his field. We've got a lot of kids that want to go a little deeper in auto tech. Recently, we've been made aware of a partnership that I'd like Tony to talk a little bit about with Pittsburgh State. So I think it will benefit our school and our students.
So our idea is if we get another ag instructor is we're going to have our 2 entry-level auto classes. We're going to split the second level general service 2 into 2 classes because all those kids that feed in from the 2 intro classes create one big class in a small shop. And when you get that many kids done, you get about half as much done when you have that many kids in there because you're basically just chasing projects and trying to help 30 kids that are in a itty-bitty little space, and it doesn't work out very well. So we want to split that general service into 2 and then maintain our general service 3 class. And then I've been in contact with Pitt State. We are looking to create a diesel and heavy class, an introduction class. I feel like this community needs that. I know we have a couple different businesses around here that are always looking for a diesel and heavy tech. But not only that, they would be getting 2 to 3. We just started talking about this. They would be getting 2 to 3 credit hours towards Pitt State, automatically a $500 scholarship towards Pitt State, and just get that articulation with Pitt State going because it's going to help Pitt State, help us, and Pitt State's going to supply us with engines and different pieces of equipment like transmissions and things like that. Anything we need, and a curriculum is what they're talking about. So it'd be pretty easy to step into because we'd be teaching what they teach down there as a diesel fundamentals class is basically what it is. So those kids could go down there with credit, skip that one class, and go right into their degree.
How does that impact your shop space?
It will, but we can figure it out. There's a lot of real estate back there. We can figure something out. So hopefully with this bond issue, we can get a bullpen or something that we have some area to store things and bring them in and out of the shop as we need to.
I think Pitt State, and I talked to Tony about this, they're one of the top diesel tech programs in the country. To be able to partner with them at this high school would be fairly prestigious.
Yeah, there's not, when it comes to auto tech and diesel and heavy, Pitt State is the program in the country. A lot of people don't realize that. Little southeast Kansas town, but we, as Pitt State alumni and Pitt State, I know a lot of the instructors down there in the program down there, they are at the top of the game. They are the prestigious program that Cat and Cummins and Peter Keywood, they're all trying to pull out of, so they're trying to get technicians out of that program. So if we can feed some kids down there and feed some local shops some decent diesel technicians, I think it's a good idea.
So another area we want to kind of grow and expand in is horticulture. And Mrs. Sharks is here. She's our current horticulture teacher. You want to talk a little bit about what your vision is?
So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Mrs. Beth Sharks. I'm new here this year. But one of my deepest passions in the agriculture industry is horticulture. I have a horticulture minor from K-State, and that kind of spurred the direction of my favorite curriculum. So we currently have a greenhouse that we work a lot in. We have the Horticulture 1 class. We have the Horticulture 2 class right now. They're combined, so I have both of those kids at the same time. But I would love to be able to expand on those classes and bring in floral design, bring in how to manage a greenhouse, and really start preparing those kids for some of those jobs within that industry, but at the same time give them an opportunity to see what they can do on their own. Probably many of you garden or do something within the plant or horticulture industry, and giving the kids the opportunity to find that passion like I did is something that I'm very excited about. So to expand in a greenhouse that is extremely functional, that we can have plant sales so students can learn the business side of things and also the side of customer relations and really start building on those skills. It's something that I can see this program expanding into and really encompassing extremely well.
Anybody have any questions?
I have first one is, you said the number, you're turning away a lot of students. How many students were you turning away for the intro to ag? Like, is it a huge problem or is it, you're talking about 5
We have 2
kids
sections
or?
now, and we could fill 4.
So you get that many kids, so 50 kids, is that about right?
Yeah, probably a little less.
Okay.
40 to 50.
Okay.
First off, though, I mean, the beginning of the year was not a good time because, I mean, there were just so many kids that wanted to be involved. And it seemed like more of these kids coming up were kids that had been involved in 4-H and, you know, that's just their natural pathway they want to fall into is going into FFA, and it's just wasn't available to a lot of kids that needed to be in there because we were just overflowed.
So if those classes are really full, are the other classes full too? Like, are you at max capacity on like the other
on most
courses that-
CTE classes, we are in our entry levels for sure. There's not a seat that doesn't have a butt in it.
Okay. And then I guess I'm a little concerned, you were talking about like we have students from other schools that would like to come here, and I think we need to serve our own students first. That I don't.
We don't take any.
That's what I was saying. Is how does that work? Like,
I think
how,
you just mentioned that just to kind of let you know how popular our program is. We have enough kids in this school to fill 4 sections. If we let other schools in, we'd have enough to fill 5 or 6 probably. You know, but we're not going to do that because we need to take care of Tongan kids before we worry about the surrounding community.
Yeah, we don't take them up. I got an email just yesterday from Counselor Basin and wanted to know if we could share programs. Well, I'd love to, but we can't. Not yet.
and then I wrote down that one. What skills are you looking for in your other ag teacher? Like, is it? I noted like teaching intro to ag. Is that right? And then welding and animal science. If you're doing the horticulture side, is it more somebody looking for animals? Like, they're more of an expertise in animal science portion and the welding portion?
So ideally, we would look for someone that reflects the opposite of me. Someone that has the bigger passion for the animal science industry, probably the welding and math classes that we would take away from Tony. But all ag teachers are trained in this, in all sections, so we will find someone that would have the passion for those and hopefully complement each other so that we can have strong teachers in all of our disciplines.
And then how will FFA work? So will you have 2 advisors or will there be 1 advisor? Like, sometimes that 2 advisor thing might be kind of challenging. Is there a lead advisor, and then how would that work?
Definitely 2 advisors and sharing 50-50. I've reached out to a lot of 2-teacher, 3-teacher, 4-teacher programs throughout the state to ask, how does this work? What are some of the biggest issues you run into, or what are the big successes of having 2 ag teachers? So I've reached out. A lot of people say you have to work in communication. So I look forward to finding an individual that works really well with our standards that we have here at Tonganoxie and within the ag program to help complement each other and really just do our best for our kids.
So with 2 advisors, then will there be more opportunities for more judging contests? Because I know, like this year, I don't think you did the dairy, like the meat, cheeses, or was that coming?
Happened, yeah.
Okay, I know that one of my kids talked about not doing it.
She's judging, don't you know?
Yeah.
No.
The milk and cheeses.
Yeah,
So I know they talked about not doing it because there wasn't enough interest. Like, there wasn't enough interest, I guess, or there was.
No, we haven't had the milk quality contest yet. But the goal would be to be able to coach those teams in a way that more than just me can do. So having the more interest in being able to spend more time with our kids on those focuses that they're interested in.
Because there's a lot of contests I think that we probably haven't taken advantage of, maybe to its full capacity.
We haven't missed a contest this year.
Okay, I'm saying in the past,
But-
I'm not saying this year, but I think in the past, I know there have been some that have kind of come and gone that,
Well, with two advisors, you gotta realize kids are gonna gravitate, you know, if the kids teach, if that teacher's teaching that kid ag welding, that kid's gonna fall towards that instructor to be the advisor for them to, get them to those ag welding and animal science, competitions. And then the other kids are gonna fall towards the other instructor to be more of horticulture and things like that. And it's gonna free up a lot of more time for each instructor to take larger groups in each one of these competitions. Cause, that's kind of a challenge. Like this year, we had overlapping, I had Meekum going on and she had welding, so she had to take my advanced kids down to the welding competition for me. And so that would solve that issue right there, cause it's kind of not conducive to the environment when you have advanced welding kids in a competition and their instructor is not even able to be there, which was the problem this year.
So-
And it allows us to specialize and open up more free time and give us more time with those kids that are interested in those certain content areas.
It comes down to we still live in an ag community, you know. A lot of our students are still ag-based and want to be in ag-based careers. And so most ag communities have at least 2 instructors, 3 or 4. And so it just makes sense when you have that big of a demand in a community that we're trying to supply the kids with the education they desire.
well,
And I think that's why you see the one at Acer, because it's still relative ag community, so they want what we have.
well, and I think even those classes are, even if they don't go into welding or go into horticulture, those are all transferable skills that they can use in their daily life outside of
It is true.
a future in that career.
Anything in CTE can be transferable to daily life to save you money down the road. So whether it's your career choice or not, it's a good skill to
I think that's what encourages that popularity probably too for you guys, that they can use those skills.
Well, what's the other schools you contact? I mean, I was 1A school and we didn't, I mean, you just had one advisor because there's only so many kids. But I mean, the schools that you reached out to, probably 3, 4A type schools that have.
Bueller has 4 teachers. They're a 3A school. Chapman, I believe, is a 4A school. They have 2 teachers. Girard, 3, they have 2 teachers.
even where we lost our last ag teacher too, the 2 ag
I have
teachers.
Marysville as a 2-teacher program.
How big's Marysville? 2A?
3. And they're actually going to expand their ag program. They're adding on, I know that.
Then if the added classes for Tony, I mean, what are those? And the demand for those, I don't know what those students that would be taking that are doing now. I mean, are they off to Washburn to things or?
We lose some kids to Washburn, which I say lose some kids. I mean, it's a good opportunity, but then at the same time, if we can do the same thing in-house, why not do it? The other thing is I have kids that, they just kind of think that general service 2 would be the end of the road for them and then go to Washburn. And if we bring these classes around and get some diesel and get more opening for the advanced class where we can bring kids into that, we'll have more kids in-house and more kids leaving our school well-trained and ready for employment or college ready.
I have a question. So you talked about the intro. So let's say students come in and they take the intro class. What's their path after that, after the intro classes? Do they divide up and then they more specialize into different things?
Yeah, you're on the right track. So after they take the intro is that basic, like that foundational class. So after that, they can head towards a pathway. So maybe horticulture classes, maybe animal science, maybe the ag mechanics side with the welding. So after they take that intro, they're able to specialize or take a variety of class. I have a lot of students that will do that because they're not sure where they want to go after high school. So they have the opportunity to take a lot of those classes and see what kind of fits them.
Intro is prerequisite for every class beyond that. So they have to go through that to do any other ag class. So it's basically mostly freshmen.
So seems like that's the bottleneck, right, what you're describing. But then that wouldn't really be a bottleneck downstream, for lack of a better word, because they don't all go to the same class. They diverse and go to different classes, so it doesn't sound like there'd be another bottleneck when we added more teachers for the intro.
There's definitely a bottleneck in the ag welding one. Right now, it's capped at 15. So right now, if you think about it, I have about 60 kids in introduction to ag. A lot of those want to go into ag welding. 15 in the shop is quite a bit when you only have so many machines. So that's where you see maybe 2 courses of that ag welding, see where enrollment hits.
Okay.
But, so there are some other limitations in those bigger class, or those more advanced classes, but intro to ag right now is proving to be the biggest problem.
Well, intro to ag leads to welding. Welding is very popular in our area. I mean, if you look at the welding program, you know, in her ag welding one, it's easy 30 kids in there. And that's turning away kids because that's too many kids as it is, right? So it's flooded as it is. And then those welding classes are leading these kids down a road to either straight to employment, or we got a kid down in Tulsa Welding School getting a free ride on, at a full free ride, all expense paid to Tulsa Welding School. And we could get a lot of kids pointed that direction if we could get the number of kids that are interested in going through there. You know? So when you get that large class, and if you don't break it up, you're limiting the instructor, you're limiting the students' abilities. Because you just don't have room, you don't have the leadership.
It would be helpful, because I'm seeing a lot of needs, and then there's high, you know, you're coming with the highest priority one, right? And so it would be helpful if we get it on paper and just say, okay, here, adding this position can handle this many classes, and these are the, you know, these are the qualifications for that individual. I like the idea of it being complementary to horticulture, you know, having that passion for that, and that will handle this, and that will take us to this size of a program, right? Assuming that the ratios and the interests stay about the same as you grow, and then you go, well, then you hit a facility problem, like you only have so many welders, you only have so big a space, and just so that for planning purposes to understand, okay, we have this, and then we'll have these other things that will be coming up at a certain point in time. That would be helpful, just to kind of have a list or a.
Well, I mean, I think what they're saying is they could take 40 more kids now. Do we have an animal science class now? And a horticulture class? Or, so you would be adding extra classes on
And
those?
if you add those intro to ag classes, then all those, it's gonna bottleneck. It's gonna flood. If you add those, we need to make sure we have another instructor taking up the slack down the road, because as you add those 4 classes, you're gonna have more kids coming into each one of those classes. So
Right.
We need to make sure that we.
And then you run into a spot to where either the facilities, you know, equipment, classroom, something.
Yeah, and I think something to remember is that when we remove Tony from those 2,
Yeah.
it's gonna thin it out. It's gonna
Right.
spread it out. And so right now, we have the facilities.
Okay.
You'll have more classes, won't you? Because you'll have more teachers, so you won't need as many facilities.
Yeah, we're gonna use our space, CTE space, more efficiently.
Right.
Yeah, because you gotta remember right now, there's a lot of, like, for the ag shop, there's a lot of dead hours out there that the shop's not being used. All right, so if we do this, the shop will be getting used more, but at more efficient rate, you know, because right now it's, okay, it's only getting used this hour and this hour, and we're shoving tons of kids into those few hours.
And we already have the classroom space. Because if you'll remember, Mr. Grimes was here last year and we didn't replace him. We shifted Mr. Troyer over. So that left the classroom, a nice classroom, available. That we will have space for a new position.
So
And our shop
how much is this impacting you in the auto mechanics currently? I mean,
Well,
this isn't
right.
a problem that just happens
It's
overnight.
limiting me in the auto tech program, because just because another thing where we're putting so many kids in 1 hour that the kids aren't learning as efficiently as they should be, because it's just chasing 30 kids around in
Right.
an itty bitty shop trying to figure that out. So, doing this, we'll get better technicians, we'll get a better product, is what you could call it, and we're gonna have better technicians heading out the door, since we're gonna get them into a smaller class environment where it's like 15 kids per class maybe instead of like 30. And also introducing another class, introducing that diesel and heavy equipment, which, let's face it, I mean, people may not like to hear this or not, but 4-year college degrees are not that, they're just not worth a lot right now. You know, there's not a lot of jobs available for that. So a lot of our kids are gonna be working with a hands-on field, because that's the jobs available. And they're very well-paying jobs too. So if we really wanna do the best for our kids, we need to feed the need. And the need right now is diesel technicians, automotive technicians, and diesel. That's why we really need to get the diesel program started, because diesel covers over the road, railroad, and agriculture. So those are 3 things that are never going to disappear. They're the most stable job and the most well-paying job out there. And if we can get kids into that field, for me, that's the most important thing. Automotive never will be outsourced. It's a good field to go into, but we need to be feeding automotive service and that other 3 I just spoke of, the railroad, over the road, agricultural.
So these careers, I know a lot of the folks that you're probably talking about locally that, you know, are looking for folks. You know, these careers lend themselves into starting your own business and running your own business over time, and the ability to do very well for yourself. Is there an opportunity for kids that are in these paths to take business classes to, you know, to have that?
Well, that would be articulation with Pitt State. That would be where they'd come in. So that would be great with Pitt State on that. So that would be your business side of it. So getting them down there, that's the whole, when you're down there doing your diesel, you also take business classes and take your professional classes. So that way that would lend to that. But I will tell you, just being a diesel tech, if you can specialize in diesel tech right now, most diesel techs that are coming out of school within 2 years, they're making $95 grand a year turning wrenches at a dealership. So, I mean, they make twice as much money as people training them to do. So, you know, that's just the reality of it. That's where the demand is right now. That if you look at our culture, we push 4-year degrees so long that people don't think they're successful if they're not going into something that's a desk air-conditioned job, and unfortunately, there's nothing like that available right now. Those are few and far between. So what we need to be tailor-making our programs to is the jobs that are available, and driving these kids and getting the passion in these kids to go out and use their hands to make the money that's out there, because the money that's out there, you can ask any business owner, they just can't find anybody that wants to go out and use their hands. And you know, the thing is with Tongi, we got kids that they're hungry for it, they just need direction, because we got a lot of kids that don't mind working, and we can send a lot of kids out through this country that are gonna make a lot of money and bring home a lot of bread, using their hands and using the technical skills that they develop.
Is there any more questions on this?
I was just wondering, so when you came up with the number that, you know, there's 40 to 50 kids that could fill these classes, so what's the formula that you use to come up with that number? And also, do we do that in the high school for other specialties or other areas of study as well?
How do we come up with a number?
Knock it on the door.
Yeah, the kids, how do we know who wanted to get in that couldn't get in?
I think what Kai's asking is, you know, is it just based upon feedback from people who said, hey, I wanna do it, or is there, you know, when you do an enrollment, is there any way that tracks that? Or is it just?
Yes, I'm being shaken. Yeah, in Skyward in our pre-enrollment, kids select the classes they want. That doesn't mean they get it, because they
Right.
go up, and so that's how.
So essentially, you've turned some kids away.
We turned a lot of kids
Oh, wow, and that's a hard thing to do.
away. Well, it's a hard thing to do on the kid level and on the parent level.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's hard to explain to the parent.
So, and I've heard that several times from other parents, you know, that, and we've had that discussion here as well, you know, that that's an issue. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I think it's great that you know that if, you know, that there's that need and that this will solve that problem, but I'm just wondering if we have that, I mean, if is there a way to have, if it's in Skyward and we're tracking it, then that's fabulous. Then you would be able to say, well, okay, well, for somebody, you know, that wants to go into accounting, we know that we also need, or we don't need a teacher in that area, or we, you know, we're borderline, we're, you know, on track to add a teacher to, you know, for someone that's going down that business degree, you know, degrees, whatever, pathway. So, that's what I'm wondering. I mean,
It'd be nice
If
to see,
there's some-
I mean, it's kinda like Drew said, I mean, I believe you and I'm supportive of doing this tonight, but I think as we go forward, and we get this every year when the schedule things or new teachers or programs come up, is really having data that says, this many kids are doing X, this many kids are doing Y, and we have a need and defining it. It's not really against the teachers, it's more, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
if we're
just
gonna make
so
a
there's
change, it just really
transparency there.
supports itself from a
Right.
business purpose or financial side from the school. I mean,
And like
Do we have
Kyle
somebody
was
that knows
saying,
Skyward coming up?
yeah, well, and like I think like Kyle was saying, you know, it would be nice to know that that you know you guys had the greatest number of children. That's what I understood her to say, was that the greatest number of children that got turned away were for this, and then like maybe the second greatest number of children turned away were for, you know, who knows why, and then on down the road, so that you could say, you know, that transparency to say, we support, you know, we put the funds here because this had the greatest number of children that were deferred. And so if somebody comes and says, well, oh, my child wanted, you know, accounting, and you could say, well, you know, we didn't have very many children turned away from that, so that's why we put the funds here, which I think would just help with that, you know, helping defend what we're spending our money on. Because I totally like said, everything that you guys said here sounds wonderful, and it is nice to put those kids in those jobs that if they don't want to, and if it's not their career path to do a 4-year college, they still have the skill sets to go out and fill a need in the community and fill a need for themselves to be able to be self-sufficient.
Okay, so for the Skyward piece to it, there's a lot of things that Skyward is really great at tracking. One thing that we can't do with it, because we've been trying to do kind of like what you asked, was for the accounting, when we categorize our classes, we can't, it's a little tricky, and without having it here to like pop up and explain it and kind of go into the details of it, the program, without really changing some other stuff into the kids and background stuff, we can't go in and say, okay, accounting fits with this pathway, and ag is, it can't be categorized into Skyward. They're just an elective course is how we have it listed. So we can't separate them into listed specific pathways. It's something I've been trying to work and looking on probably 2 years now. So we have created this that we're going to be doing here very soon with our students during the pre-enrollment process. It's a pathway concentrator sheet through Excel that the students are going to be getting, and we have this whole process that we're going to be using with them, along with the pre-ACT data that we just got back to. So we're kind of using all of these different pieces integrated to get what you guys are asking for. So they will go through, it's on my phone, can't see it, it's too tiny, but they'll go through this spreadsheet and say, okay, I've taken these classes, and then it will populate, okay, you are heaviest in this pathway. And so then if they're saying, well, I want to be a doctor, but they keep taking classes in business, then we can have those conversations like, well, if you want to be a doctor, why aren't you taking more of these pathway classes, or you know, so we can help steer those students in the direction and kind of get those conversations started, as well as have it for what you're asking. Say, well, here's the numbers.
So I know in other school districts, they have a 2-year, they meet with students in 8th grade and then at their junior year. And they do exactly what you're talking about, where they go through and, you know, it's the parent, the student, and the counselor, and they talk about their individual plan of study, and they go through that process so that so I guess that's what I was curious about, because when you do, you know, if you have kids that want to take these classes and they can't. I actually have a friend that had a child that wanted to get an intro to ag and couldn't, you know, and that's frustrating, right? So I get it, but I'm just wondering, you know, if we solve one problem, then do we have 12 more, or is this the only problem we have, you know? And I didn't know if that data exists or if we're still waiting to collect it.
I think it's our biggest problem, yes.
Yeah.
Are we gonna run into other obstacles? Of course, and deal with them. But this is the bottleneck, and it is the pathway that's our biggest issue. I know that I haven't given you any numbers, but it's a fact. And we can work on those numbers.
Well, I just think I mean, as we're kind of getting off track. You're talking about ag, and I know maybe you have some other presentations, and we can all probably have a lot more opinions. But I mean, I just think even with the bond, you know, we're talking about new CTE classes with the bond and what opportunities there are, and it's just having some. I don't think we're asking for too complicated of analysis, but just a little bit of data, just to kind of help document the proposal when it comes through would help when you vote on these things. This again isn't really about the ag issue to me.
No, because everything you're saying aligns with all the feedback we've been getting from parents and other, so, yeah.
And that's what we're living in, is dealing with the parents, I mean, and it's on a large scale.
Yeah.
And as an aside, I would say, I think it's so refreshing and exciting, all of the success you brought the district, and that whole program has, you know, it's so positive, and there's so many good news stories and good PR, and all of you are doing excellent work in that area. So I mean, it'd be hard not to support that, you know. So I appreciate
while
that.
we're here, check it out on my Facebook page for Tom Oxiana Tech. We went worldwide with NBCSN with an interview with Katie Osborne and economics. So we went across the world to talk about it. Just saying.
That's awesome.
One thing to consider as you think about this is that there's going to be a lot of BOAG jobs open, and there's not a lot of good BOAG teacher selections out there, so the clock's ticking. I can get you that information soon, but in a perfect world, it would be something we would want to post soon, because it's a race.
It is.
It's a huge race.
In all CTE areas, there is no teachers available. And I was just speaking with Andy Flanky down at this state, even about automotive, and kind of reaching out, trying to help some other schools that are struggling right now. And he said they are graduating 21 technical educators in May this year. And he said there are like 93 openings at the current time. It was in the 90s. I can't remember the exact number. He said 93, 94. So that's what we're looking at as a society. Is we do not have the problem is people used to retire, and so they would come out of the field and come teach at late 50s, early 60s, and that's not happening anymore. People are working into their 70s. It's just not happening where teachers are swapping over at the end of their career to distribute their knowledge. It's not happening anymore.
Last year, K-State graduated 21 ag teachers, and there was 70 positions open in the state. I think 4 Ks graduated 3, maybe 2. But even my home program last year did not have an ag teacher. Could not find one. Beginning of May, they finally went to a post-grad or an alum of Ellis, and she had an animal science degree, and they begged her to come teach. So there's a lot of transition to teach that's happening
I think we see the need, and maybe if you have some numbers after the fact, and it's on the agenda to, here shortly, to vote on to authorize that position. I think you made a pretty strong case to me, anyway, so. Was
Well,
there-
we thank you for your time. We appreciate you listening to us. It is something that we live in and know that we need, so.
Is that all you had?
I think so.
No, I just, well, I know, if I give you the mic, sometimes, Mark, you go for a couple hours.
Actually, he was pretty quiet.
Sorry about that.
I was gonna say, between the two of us, we probably get bad deals. I've been known to get a little longer.
You're
We're
fine.
ordering pizza.
It's more of an inside joke with him. All right,
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
All right. Moves us on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent
We
agenda?
moved that item
Yes.
out
Oh,
of
we did move.
the consent agenda.
Did we do the whole thing? We just moved one item.
Just
2.6.
2.6. So the remaining consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion carried. I know Stephanie's got to get out of here. Was there any patron comments? Okay, that would move us to action items, which we moved up to item 4. 5.1 is the approval to post a vocational ag position for the 2021 school year. Is there any comment? I think we've been talking about this quite a bit right now. I don't know if you have anything to add, Lauren, or
No,
anything?
they covered it.
All right, with that,
I support it.
I would entertain a motion to approve the posting of a post-vocational agricultural position for 2021 school year.
I make a motion to approve action item 5.1.
Is there a second?
Is it still 5.1? Yeah.
It's 4.1. I think.
4.1.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion carried. 5.2, the secondary coordinator position.
We'd like to table that
Okay. All
at
right.
this point.
Okay.
And I have some rationale for it, but it
Okay.
ties more into negotiations.
All right, we will table item 4.2. That would get us to, I guess now it's 5, which would be the reports, Lauren.
Okay. Yeah, I did hand out, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
That calendar, where are you?
Oh,
moving?
you wanna do
sorry,
that?
sorry.
Sorry.
Calendar would be the next action item. The calendar was attached. Is there any questions on that or discussion? Drew, you had a
Yeah, 'cause
2.6, I guess it's 4.3 now.
it's going back into my memory banks, but I remember that we had several, Lisa Patterson, I believe, came in and talked about the calendar after it was approved. It was primarily related to homecoming and the half day there and what options were available to maybe integrate that into more of a community event. And the primary concern being at the end of a half day, kids get sent home, and if you don't have a stay-at-home parent or something like that, then they don't have the opportunity to come back into town. And I recall us discussing that and talking about, hey, that we could, when the next calendar thing, discussion came up, which I think was going to be in January, so it's happened a little bit earlier than what we were talking about. We would have that discussion. So I wanted to pull it out of the consent agenda because I don't think that discussion has happened.
Yeah, we, the administrative team met with Lisa Patterson to discuss her concerns, and then she also met another time with Mr. Farrar. And her primary concern was that she wanted to know if homecoming was a high school event or a community event. And, we talked about all the changes that we made to bring the high school to the elementary and middle school to incorporate those things and make it, more, have the elementary and middle school kids participate more than they have in the past. And Mr. Farrar has talked with the student council, and
they want to keep it the same as a high school event. You know, they do have the parade downtown, but really their intent is more of to have a high school event. After we met with Lisa and then Mr. Farrar met with Lisa, I think she was satisfied with our conversation. I don't know that anybody got 100% of what they wanted as far as changes, but I think, you know, we've all come to an understanding what the purpose of the event is. That was her concern, with the purpose of the event. Was it a community event or was it a high school event?
Yeah, I'd like for us to have a discussion about that, because I appreciate, you know, folks at the high school thinking, you know, I understand why they would want to keep it more event, but I want to think about it in a broader perspective about how that can be integrated in to make it, you know, more, which is probably, I think, more in the traditional sense of what it had been prior to the current scheduling, where you have a higher opportunity for students to, kids to attend, specifically the parade, that stuff. And I know that we talked about that as a group many months ago.
The teachers feel, you know, we talked with some of the teachers at the elementary and middle school too, and they felt that the way we do it now with the high school kids coming here and the drum line and, you know, the homecoming court and the dancers and the cheerleaders, they feel like there's more participation and partnership with the high school now. Whereas it was before, the kids, their only involvement was to walk outside the elementary, sit on the curb, watch the parade go by, and then go back inside. There was no involvement or partnership there with the kids coming, you know, the high school students coming in and participating. And there's been a lot more of that now.
They go to the schools and speak, don't they?
Yes.
I mean,
They have
talk
a
to the
pep
younger
rally, they
kids
have
and
events.
Have you ever been to one where the school has it in the evening and
We
where it's
talked
competing?
with the high school about that. They are absolutely not interested in having an evening parade.
Because as we move forward, especially with bond issues and things, as we need to make changes, as you know, in years to come, really making things like that a community event, I think, is going to be really important in getting the community involved. And we want community members to go to the football games. We want them to participate and be good stewards and supporters of the school. And I kind of feel like that's a time where we really could be involving not only parents, but also students. And I went to the parade the last 2 years, and I'd have to say I've been very disappointed, especially this last year. You couldn't hear anything. People left. Probably, I mean, some high school kids that were right around the front, but there were parents who attended and kids, and it was kind of sad to me. It wasn't what I remember having when I was in high school, because a lot of people were very involved. It was a very exciting day, and it just seemed pretty ho-hum, unfortunately. And I think it was part of the speaker system maybe that made it.
Or the cold weather.
Or cold, yeah. So it just wasn't. It was very hard to hear. Like, you couldn't hear anything, and so a lot of people walked off and just kind of left it.
I appreciate it. It's good to know, in my opinion, you know, where the high school's coming from. I would like to know why, and I'd like to have a discussion, because there's definitely competing, there's different perspectives and different feedback we're getting, and rather than just say, hey, we're going to keep moving ahead, I want to have a discussion about it, to hear from folks, give you know, folks like Lisa an opportunity to take a look at it, hear from her, you know, and others that I know. My wife has a lot of the folks that grew up in Tongi, kind of, you know, it doesn't feel as community focused. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we can top down us dictate that. I mean, we're gonna. I mean, you got to have the students and the faculty that want to
So how?
do some of that.
Okay, but so when you say we talk to the teachers, I'm not saying specific. I'm not like, how do I have to say this differently? So let's just take, you know, there's one community member that met with an administrator who met with, let's say there's 10 people on the student council who talked to some teachers, but how many teachers is that? Let's say that's 10 teachers. So now we're talking, 30 people, and we're talking in a community of over 5,000 people. The percentage of people who have allowed their opinions to matter in this decision that affects really the vibe and the community spirit of, of the greater numbers, that's a very, very small percentage. The voice that is dictating this is very small, but unless I'm hearing this wrong.
When I spoke to Lisa prior to this, so she didn't realize it was on the consent agenda and that there was.
Well, and this is the calendar. This is not about homecoming. This is the calendar for next school year. The homecoming date is already on there, but the structure of homecoming is a high school event. It has nothing to do with the calendar that's on the agenda tonight.
Well, it kind of does, doesn't it? Because it's a half day, and in previous years, probably back quite a few years, it was never a half day. It was always a full day. Kids went out, watched the parade, they went back to class. Like, it was always a full day, and so I think it kind of does involve the calendar a little, just because it's that half day, whole day.
I mean, we can make it a full day if we want to. I don't think the elementary and middle school will be attending the parade, even if we do that.
Well, I'm not saying it will change. I'm just saying let's have an opportunity to have a discussion about it where we can hear from. Because if the elementary or the middle school leads aren't wanting to participate in it, then I'd like to know why. Is it a security thing? Is it what? Because, is it a, what, just so that we have an opportunity to discuss it.
It's a security thing. It's pretty scary being in charge of 20, 25 kids, getting them down there, keeping track of them while they're there. Parents come and take their kids and don't tell the teachers, so the teachers are frantically missing kids. Kids don't make it back to the bus. The radio is going crazy. We have parents calling and upset because my kid wasn't on the bus. Well, Dad picked him up, and so, I mean, it's just one bad thing can happen, and that will be the end of it all. Honestly, it's a fear factor for me. I feel like the teachers feel the same way.
Yeah, I guess, I haven't heard one person about homecoming and making it a bigger deal to me. I think people can, if they got an opinion, they've had all year or multiple times to mention they want something different. I know you hear something different from,
Well,
I guess
I'm just frustrated
sure.
that I'm just frustrated that at the time it was brought up, it's not appropriate to talk about it yet because that isn't going to really be discussed until next year, and then the calendar gets presented as a consent, and we haven't had that opportunity to talk about it. So
you can still have a discussion about homecoming. This is just the calendar that sets the number of days for the next school year and when professional development is, when spring break is. We're trying to match up with other districts, that I guess you could still have a discussion about homecoming with the high school. I don't really think this calendar has anything to do with the structure of that.
Well, if we were to approve this calendar and the homecoming date would remain the same, then is there the flexibility if we were wanting to change that to a full day or some discussions led to that, would that be an option then? Or is once you have it as a calendar, it's set and
You
you
can
can't
always
change it?
amend it.
Well, we can't because we would be going against our whole mentality of why we didn't amend it. There was something on the calendar we discussed about change. It was spring break.
Spring break,
So,
yeah, for that.
so the reason we didn't change the spring break dates was because it was set, and the whole reasoning behind it was that it was set and that's it. And the next opportunity you had to change it was the next time you approved the calendar. So once you approve it, if we're going on what we've already said in the past, then no, then it's set.
So
well,
what is
spring
the
break a
timing
week
of the-
versus a half day of school is quite a bit different, I would think.
Yeah, that's true.
So is there a timing constraint for approval of the calendar that is, or, are we trying to get our calendar in before other people so other people match us, or are we?
We are trying, it's better to get it done as soon as possible
Right.
because you build things around it. So academic events, athletic events, and those sometimes are planned 2 years out. So we try to do those as soon as possible. All of our other league schools are doing this right now.
Okay.
And we're matched up our spring breaks especially are matched up with Baser and with all of our league schools, but were different this year. So we wanted to make sure that next year we were all aligned and in the same position.
What's easier, if we approved it tonight with a full day on homecoming, a day of school, and then we changed it to a half a day?
Well, I mean, what we'd have to do, if you don't want to vote on it tonight, we'll have to go back to the calendar committee and have them amend it. But what I'm bringing you today is what the calendar committee is recommending. So if you don't want that calendar, we have to go back to the drawing board and come up with a different calendar. And if the half-day thing is the holdup, I would just go back to the committee and say the board's not pleased with a half-day on homecoming.
Well, whether it's half day or full day is just a byproduct of what may happen with regards to a different approach on integrating the community, or somehow to ramp up the engagement with the district with homecoming. So it's not whether or not it's a half day or full day in my mind. It's just, okay, what's the best solution for homecoming, and if it's going to, if we want to try to, as a district, well, not just with homecoming, but in general, get more involvement, engagement into the school activities and that kind of stuff, that, you know, that would be the only driver. It's not, in my mind, it's not a half day or full day in the discussion. It's what's the right thing for homecoming that can address people's concerns, that the school is that's acceptable to the school. And my experience has been, if you get folks in the room that can share their perspectives and their priorities, then it works out. I just have seen it too many times, so I just would like to have that opportunity to have folks talk about it.
Well, I think the motion in front of us is whether we approve the calendar tonight or not. I don't know if there's any other discussion.
Well, if we don't approve the calendar, then we would approve the calendar next month. And if we waited until next month to approve the calendar, what is the downfall of that?
What are you wanting to happen in between this month and next month?
The discussion that he's talking about.
Yeah, I think Stephanie has a lot of good insight into this and some feedback, and I'd like to have some, because it's kind of a, you know, getting the attendance back up at the parade and getting folks more involved, I think would be valuable. Just see what comes out of that.
I mean, you think that's going to get solved in a month?
I don't know.
I mean, quite honestly, I've not made it a priority as being in charge for the agenda because, one, I'm not homecoming is this or that to me, but then, I mean, we've been a little preoccupied with quite a few other projects, and I don't see this as really that high a priority, but, and I know there's pushback from the staff in terms of adding, you know, making some significant changes on this. And somewhere there's going to have to be someone that takes charge and does the work. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, there's been one person come to us and talk to us that says they want something different. I mean, I think if it wants to be a community event, then someone within the community needs to take charge of that and make it more of an event, and the school can adopt or adjust accordingly. But I go back to, I mean, we can initiate a dialogue, but I just feel like it's coming from a top down from us that this needs to be changed.
Well, I don't see it that way. I see it as and I don't want to see it as a top down. It's hey, because how the district interacts and is engaging with the community, I think is a policy type thing. If that's a focus, if that's a priority, then decisions that are made by the administration and you know, at lower levels within the district, you know, would be in accordance with that. It's not saying the details of here to do this. It's a discussion about, is that a priority for the board? to have that be a focus and play a bigger part into the decision for homecoming, and not just this, that's what is focused.
But I think, I mean, it's a little unfair to push this onto the administration, or they've already run it by the committees and the groups. I mean, if the board wants to do something like this, I think someone other than any board member could have requested an addition to the agenda, or tried to organize some, some discussion, I guess, with the community on this topic.
Yeah, I was expecting that to happen
that.
after the first year, because when we talked about it,
I asked the question in the board meeting when this topic came up before, and that was what was said, is that this would be something before the first of the year.
Right, and in the
Right.
meantime, we met with Lisa Patterson and talked through all of that, so we didn't think we had to, we thought we came to a resolution, so we didn't think we had to go through a whole.
Just a few random thoughts. It's definitely not I don't believe that it's the job of any community member to organize homecoming. It's absolutely the school district and, the administration of the school district to plan that. And when we want to put a lot of emphasis on the PR, we want to hire a communication person to send out all of the positive things that are going in the community, because that benefits the overall feeling and the overall what's the word I'm looking for? Atmosphere. Everything positive, good news, breeds good, happy vibes, and it's all homecoming and the opportunity to capitalize on making that a great opportunity for for celebrating your school district. I mean, basically what I think is if that's not a priority for the district or the board, then nor should be the communication person, because to me it's one and the same. And this is when when we hired Lauren and we did the back to school, tailgate, everybody loved it. The band was there, we did everything. That's the same thing as an opportunity for homecoming. You're bringing people together and having the band play and having the floats and it's an event. But Lauren's deal was important, but homecoming is way more important than that, because it's a yearly thing and it's something that other alumni come back for. And if alumni choose to come back to their homecoming and it's downtown in the street and you can't hear what's going on. I'm not an alumni of this school district, but I never go to listen in the middle of the street because you can't hear. My kids can't even see. I can't see. There's just, it is an opportunity, because it's been a discussion that we've brought up and that a community member has brought up to us. We have the opportunity to address it now. If we choose not to, we choose not to. But
well, I think we're getting kind of on the subject and the calendar. I know they tie in. I don't know. I guess at this point I would just like to call for a vote on approving the calendar tonight.
Well, maybe if we call for a vote to approve the calendar, but make this more of make it a priority for discussion with administration and maybe some community members, and instead of saying, oh, we'll talk about it at the first of next year, is that something that we can say, okay, by this month we would like to have some type of discussion, so then we can move forward with this calendar, but at least have a discussion prior to next year's calendar and make a decision then, and it is what it is at that point.
It's a 2-year calendar.
I'm sure we can.
Is it a 2?
However, then
So could you approve the calendar with homecoming?
what?
Could you approve the calendar with discussion of homecoming?
Well, she said it's going to have to we either
Go through the
approve it the
committee.
way it's presented or go back to the
The
committee,
committee.
and then then that leaves the open-ended to this whole discussion in terms of what do we want going forward. Whether it's a day or a half day.
Yeah.
I think you could approve it with the half day and still have some kind of discussion. Now, maybe it wouldn't turn out the way you want.
Well, it's not about trying, it's just going through the process so that you get, and people can bring ideas and talk about what they would like to see out of it. I'm okay with approving the current calendar as long as there's a process that we can go through to amend it if we need to go from a half day or full day. If that process, we want to change that one day out of the entire school calendar. I mean, now if that changing that is a challenge, then, you know, previous discussions were, you know, the calendar wasn't going to get approved till the first of the year anyway, so I don't see any harm in delaying that, because we're actually ahead of where we thought we would be at this point in time.
Any other discussion? Guess I would just entertain a motion to approve the calendar for the 2021 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2021 school calendar as presented.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the calendar as presented. Yes, all in favor, raise your right hand. All against. Okay, the motion carries 4-2.
Can we though continue, like, in the
This
future have,
discussion.
like, not have to continue this discussion now, but say that in the future we will address this maybe a little more, like, could we have a committee of board members or?
I think that's a great idea. I'll take a lot of volunteers and I'm not
I
going to be
would
on
be
it.
happy to do that, right?
I'd do it. I'd do it.
But at least to have a further discussion and then just let's clarify it and get it completed. And so we don't have, it doesn't have to be something that every year we bring back up again with the same questions. Like, let's just get it taken care of.
Is that something that you're proposing even for this next calendar year to start
For,
it now?
not for this year, because it looks like it is what it is this year. But for next year, that at least we would have that, we'd have a year where that would be said and
But
we
is
could have
it,
that.
but is it, I mean, and I don't know the answer, just because it's a half a day, does that mean that you can't decide that you, I don't know, I mean,
I
I
think
was
it's hard.
unclear.
We could entertain the committee's decisions and how it all interacted. But I mean, I think we've got a calendar set and we work around that accordingly for this year. But I mean, I think it's a reasonable compromise to get some kind of committee discussion and put this to bed for the future, one way or the other.
Yeah, I think there's a tremendous opportunity. That fall kickoff is hugely popular. I mean, you leave that thing feeling awesome about the upcoming year.
I've seen other schools really take advantage of that homecoming activities and really getting their community involved, and I think we're missing out on a good thing that we could potentially have here.
All right, good discussion. Let's move on to the reports now.
My first one is been working on the transportation maintenance department location. And if you haven't been as highly involved in that, what we're trying to do is look at the feasibility of locating the transportation compound and cleaning up the area south of the high school where the maintenance shop is, so we can develop that whole area back there so in a much better format than it presently is. The maintenance shop presently being used is an older facility that's seen its better days, but it's also located in a tough area, you know, as far as developing a parking lot back there, accessibility. You know, these are all things that we've talked about. You have to get going.
Thank you.
And so what we did, we've done a couple things. We've talked to KDOT, we've talked to the city. I met with, I think Chris and Drew a little bit, talked about this. We did ask a company just to kind of give us an idea of what something like this might cost it in a metal and wood building. This is, I mean, more known for that kind of a building. And this is just getting us a start. That's about it. I mean, this is not a bid. This is not, I mean, we haven't put this out for bid or anything like that. But this is just an artist's rendition of what a maintenance / transportation building might look like. And then inside of here, they've done a pretty nice job of kind of breaking it out. you know, the size of the building, and I haven't looked at it close enough to know what this all entails as far as utilities and all the extras. But it kind of just gives us a starting point, really. I mean, that's what I was after. I have an extra one if you need one. And so, just letting you know that we are working on it. We are looking at 2 different locations. Basically, we talked about the west curve or out here by the elementary, or just right over here on the to the south west. There's some areas out here that, of course, we own that property. We also own the property on the curve. And I think that's one of our motivating factors is not to pay rent, not to go out and maybe purchase something else, but something that we already own. And so this is just the beginning of all this, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to have something in place sooner than later as far as a bus compound and perhaps this maintenance shop if we decide to go down that route. And looks like by combining the 2, we could come up with a facility that could meet both our needs. So any input on that? I mean, like I said, this is just
I know it's
step
preliminary.
one.
I know it's preliminary, but how is the square footage in this related to what we currently have?
Okay,
Obviously,
it's
we have no bus
larger,
barn
yeah.
now.
We talked to quite a few people since this was put out, and they said, all right, so this is bigger than what we presently have. And then people say that you always want to make it even a little bit bigger. Don't undersize it, make sure it's big. And we haven't done that at all. So we can look at the cost per square footage and kind of figure out, you know, what a project like this might entail.
So the cost that they have, does that include?
It's at the very end.
Yeah, does that include like some allowance for site work?
You know what, I don't think, I think it does just, okay, I think it does just for this, but if you're gonna build a compound, I mean, let's say we're starting to put in all your utility hookups, safety, some sort of a gravel or some sort of a area for buses to park or fencing, it doesn't include any of that.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at times 3.
There's a lot now.
It depends on where you, location and how. I mean, I think it's to get a ballpark, so the big thing is the bond, this really doesn't feed into this, it's separate from the bond, but with the bond and their work and moving stuff off site, and whether to rent or to build, or, I mean, there's just a lot of things. We're trying to get a handle on cost, which direction should we kind of pursue further.
We have talked to the city about where the utilities presently are. I think Drew and Chris saw that. And the only thing I was also kind of thinking about is if utilities are going to be moved here in the next few months by McCown Gordon, this might play a little bit of role of like if we run major water and sewer to the west and south around West Campus. I mean, I don't know.
I do not want to put a building that looks like that on that curve.
Yeah, and I know, which I've heard.
Well, I think they're not right. They're further back behind the field or closer to the tree.
It would have to be, because I mean, we're doing all this to make that high school look real nice.
And we also, and Drew, we also know that there's some possibilities out here.
Yeah.
But it brings other issues. It could be, it could be the roads, it could be a little more traffic, all those things that we've talked
Right.
about.
Let me restate my, if it's a metal building, then if it's on the curve, then it had to be somehow screened or not readily visible, right? To detract from the rest of the campus.
Yeah. Well, I'm not there yet. So I'm just trying to look at some different options. That's really where I'm at. And I've had some good input from a number of people, so. But anyway, kind of gives you something to look at. And I'm gonna reach out to a couple other companies too, you know, for input. Just, like a metal steel building. Instead, this is wood, you know, has a wood frame.
Okay.
They're more of a wood frame, and where other companies definitely make a steel building.
Well, in this process, I think that the design should also, well, I don't know if this is possible, but I'm hoping it is, the design would also, you know, DLR would have a part in helping to design it, because I think that what you want is to have a whole entire campus that looks like a campus, that doesn't look like, well, you know, one year we did this, and then the trend was this, and then the next year we did this, and you look like you have a bunch of things that don't belong together.
Right, no, we thought, I mean, we didn't tell colors or anything.
One thing that might drive down the construction is if our insurance or anything like that has any specific requirements. Or wood frame construction versus steel.
Well, this is a pretty high project on my priority list, because, I mean, I think it's something we're gonna have to get moving on and have a pretty good plan by spring. Otherwise, we're gonna be kind of out there without a place to move some of that stuff. So, anyway, we're gonna continue to move on that. Didn't have a chance when Tony was here, but Tony has expressed his gratitude for the vehicle. You know, it's a fairly nice vehicle. They drove it. They've been driving it a lot. Drives nicely. I mean, it seems like a very sound vehicle, and they actually were hauling kids back and forth to the Meekum car show here the last week, and so he was appreciative that he got to drive those kids and not follow a van with another bus driver. I mean, I know it meant a lot to him. Also, I don't know if you saw, but Tony was interviewed by Channel 41 and others. It started out with the Meekum show, but it kind of spread into his involvement with Auto Tech and how he got the kids in Tonganoxie involved. And it's a really good story, and they did a nice job with it. So there's that. Keisha, we met with the executive director, Keisha, last Thursday. We were disappointed that they don't seem to, we were hoping that this would be discussed more openly at the April, on the April agenda, but it's not. And we got, I mean, all the superintendents in the Frontier League were very adamant about, we can't just keep putting this off. This is something that's got to be addressed. It's a statewide. It's not just a Northeast Kansas issue. It's if you're watching any TV shows or social media, this is a very hot topic, and Keisha knows it is. But there's a very conservative group that are on those executive boards and board of directors. That's just what I mean. They don't like change, and they're worried about lawsuits, honestly. So we don't have a solution. One thing that we are talking pretty extensively about is a multiplier of some sort for success or private schools, and so that's being debated. So, but we're nothing really to report. It's just a continuing action. We did have a nice offer. I kind of mentioned this before. The West Haven Baptist Church invited Tanya and I to go down and tour their office facilities. And they were very generous in saying that we could use, they were actually going to move out of their office space, some of them working from home or relocating throughout that facility so that we could use their, I mean, it's very nice. Office space for 2 or 2.5 years, rent-free. And that's very generous. And I mean, I haven't taken the entire staff down there yet, but I think it's a very good opportunity. And I think there's some things about it that would work. I mean, anything to add on that?
We have not looked into the infrastructure issues yet, how phones, internet, copying, because currently they don't have our setup there, so even if we took our phone down there, it wouldn't work. So those are things we have to look at and explore before we make any sort of commitments. And two, we don't know when we'll need to be out of our current offices. So.
Yeah. So, but anyway, they seem very open and flexible. I'm appreciative.
I see a question in your eyes over there, Drew.
I'm really appreciative of you know that offer, and I think we should entertain it. My only concern is when you have oftentimes in a relationship, you can have something from goodwill, and then if you, I would like to have in writing, you know, somewhat the expectation, because there is going to be wear and tear, and I would hate to take up an offer of generosity like that, and then after 2 years, they don't, there's some bad feelings there or something, and then we leave, and, you know, that we would have some written agreement, and you know, I'd like to, you know, at least cover the cost of the wear and tear, and then, you know, obviously there's utilities and that kind of stuff, but so that
There's a lot to work with.
that yes, that it's we do it right if we were to move forward with something like that.
They were asking for at least a 3 to 4 month leeway so we could work out some of those details. And I think that's workable. But anyway, I think it could be a very nice solution to some of our issues. I just added these important upcoming meetings and dates, and this is all before Christmas break, so they're really coming on. I did the last 3 days I was in Wichita for the KSB conference. Not a lot to report on there. It's just I don't have any report on that, but I am involved in the leadership of Southern Leavenworth County. Wednesday, the area superintendents visit with that crew. I think you'll be there, won't you? We do that annually. We give kind of our perspective from the education side, and we just talk to that whole group. So we're meeting in Baser on Wednesday. The OAC meetings are starting, and that is your owner, architect, construction meetings, OAC, and we're starting that at 9 o'clock on Thursday. Remember, we were going to meet fairly periodically for reports and updates, and that's not with the board. That's with us, the administrative team, and that's not you guys yet. I do have a Acacia appeal hearing Thursday afternoon, or starts at noon, and believe it or not, it involves a private school on an issue. Tonganoxie Site Master Plan meeting. This is with the administration, more with the people from DLR, kind of working out classroom sizes, number of classrooms. Tanya's been involved in that, and I want to sit in on some of those meetings. And then our Tonganoxie administrative meeting is Tuesday morning at 8:15. I've been asked to serve on the Census 2020 committee. Not real sure what I'm getting into. Sean, do you know what I'm getting into?
I don't know.
Am I knocking on doors? I don't know what I'm doing.
No, I think it's work. Getting the word out and stuff.
Okay, that's what I was hoping.
We don't need you to have too many things going on.
Yeah, so that was.
Just say no.
Well, public relations.
Guy, you're the worst one to get that.
So, but the city asked me to serve on that, and so I'm
All
going to
right.
try to help with that. And then, of course, we do have a special board meeting, which we'll talk more about on Wednesday, December 18th at 6 for the owner's rep. So lots of meetings going on. There we go. Thank you.
All right, Tanya.
All right. You'll see in my report that I've given you several updates in the area of curriculum. I just wanted you to know some of the work that is going on behind the scenes that you really never hear about because it's not publicized. It's not an athletic event. It's not a big academic event. So this is some of the work that's going on. We are continuing to work on our essential standards, and that is taking the standards for all of our subject areas and really honing in on what are the important standards. And there are some bullet points there that really give you what those mean. So what we will spend the majority of instructional time teaching, what we'll assess, what we'll have data-driven discussions about, and then what we will intervene on, so either enrichment or remediation.
Is this K through 12
K
all
through
the way?
12,
We're
everybody.
full alignment all the way?
Everybody full alignment, yes, yes. And some standards are harder to do that with than others. The social studies standards, for one, are written very broadly. So it's about making students better citizens. Well, how do you identify what the essential standard is, and how do you assess that? So it's a challenge for some subjects, but we are continuing to work on that, and it will take some time, a lot of time. This year we are also looking at social studies materials. I took a group of teachers, some high school, middle school, and then one from each elementary grade level to Greenbush, and we looked at different textbook and resources there. We heard presentations, we browsed the resource fair, and we have so many samples, they're just coming out of the woodwork. So teachers are really in the mix, looking at those materials now, browsing the online resources, and we'll narrow down so that in the spring we'll make a decision on what we'll be purchasing. Also, as I kind of alluded to at our last meeting, we are working on the social emotional learning in the district. We formed a committee, and we're working towards systemizing our social emotional learning from pre-K through 12. So really that encompasses a huge amount of things. Looking at our universal screener, what's our curriculum, what do we do when we notice that students have issues, how do we intervene? It's very similar to the process that we go through with reading and math, like in the MTSS where we look at tiered instruction. It's a very similar process, and that committee is doing some really hard work. So they've got their homework right now. We'll meet again in January to review what we've worked on and then move further into that. We actually had a demo last Thursday of a universal screener, which it's like the Cadillac of universal screeners. It screens the students, all students, in how they're feeling and what they're doing, their grit, their self-determination, their growth mindset, and then it gives the teachers curriculum to use, but it's also like a data warehouse. So you plug in like your attendance data, your English data, all your testing data, and it really shows the picture of the whole child and not just pieces, which is something that we've been really missing. So that's huge. We are moving forward with our assessment systems also. We really are utilizing pretty much the whole MAP suite, especially here at the elementary.
Can I ask a question on the
Yes.
data warehouse thing?
Yes.
Is that located here? Is that housed here, or is that housed at some other place?
It's here, and we own our data.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yes.
Thank you.
It marries up with Skyward, so everything we have in Skyward, like our attendance, so we can see if a student has really horrible attendance, and then we know maybe the student is struggling emotionally, that will really line up.
I was just concerned about if the data was going to be at that tools company.
And we
or
specifically asked them, do we own our data? So if at any time in the future, if we decide to go away from that program, we would keep our data. It's housed here, so that's good. And we have not decided on that program yet. We just had the demo, so we're still looking.
But that's nice that they give you that option. A lot of companies don't give you that option anymore to house the data in-house. So
yeah, and that's really important. Student data privacy is huge. I mean, we just have to guarantee that. So that was a priority. The assessment systems, really here at the elementary MAP, the whole MAP suite, we're really taking advantage of. Gail has been instrumental on a lot of that. The MAP growth is what we give to all students that measures how they grow over time and what they're ready to learn next. The MAP skills piece of it really breaks out, it's almost like a diagnostic, like where am I lacking, and then it prescribes things to them to help them make up that deficiency. And then the MAP Reading Fluency for K through 3 is something that we are piloting this year, and Gail has done a lot of work on that. And the students, you'd see, if you come to the elementary a lot, you see students doing benchmarking with their teachers, like they do a running record with them. With this system, they wear headphones and have a speaker or a microphone with them. They read, and then the system assesses, but it also gives a lot of reports, but it also records it. So as a teacher, I can go back and listen to my student read and make sure that what I'm hearing and what the reports say are the same. So that's very cool. So we are piloting that this year. We're looking at moving some of this into the high school too. Really the MAP growth piece of it and the MAP skills. It's just a little different with high school because really the skill instruction goes up to 8th grade. But you can use it with some of your high school kids if they need some of that remedial instruction. So anyway, there's lots going on with curriculum. But we also...
Sorry, one more question. Like the standards and when we try to align all that, will that come back to does that come to the board? Do we approve that or review that?
It's not approval. Really, that's in-house and it's housed within our data systems. We have shared folders and things that we work in, and they work in teams. Like, say, for example, your 3rd grade team really works together to align their instruction so that all 3rd grade teachers are addressing students in the same manner. And then they work really closely with the second grade to make sure that when they get those second graders, they're coming to them ready, and then they prepare them for fourth grade and so on. But there's different pieces to that. So there's the alignment piece, but then there's the essential standards, and that's really pulling out of all those massive lists of standards and things that we have to teach and determining out of those, that huge list, what are those very specific skills that we want to make sure students know to prepare them adequately for the next grade level. And then we assess them on that, we make sure they're ready for the next step, and then if they're not, what do we do to help them get there? And if they're beyond that, what do we do to enrich them? So there's a lot that
Just
goes
trying to
into it.
understand. And what,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll get a report when those are finalized and if people have questions and stuff.
You know, honestly, they're never final. I mean, a good curriculum is always changing and building, and you're welcome to come look at that at any time. It's really in teacher speak and it's not report worthy, I guess. It doesn't come out in a nice report that you can read and look at graphs, and you know, it's just one of those things that you just kind of roll up your sleeves and do.
The map testing?
No,
Standards.
the essential standards. That's just a piece of it, and you know, I can bring you some samples of what that would look like if you're curious how that process looks and where it's going. The other items I have are just great news in the district. One of the things you already heard about our Battle of the Brains students. That was just incredible. I got to be with the students that day, and I tell you what, one of them said, you know, we were announced and we just kind of sat there, and we were all just pretty much in awe, and our jaws were dropping, and then the kids got up, and I was standing up and jumping up and down like a crazy person, but it was very cool, very cool. And it was great to see those kids succeed, and they're so well spoken. They had news cameras in their faces, and those kids just did the interviews like pros, you know. It was amazing. So we do have some other things. One of the big things there, our district has been named to the 10th annual AP Honor Roll. This is a huge honor. This year, I believe there are only two school districts in Kansas who've received this honor. What this honor is that we increase the access to students to take AP courses, but also we increase the number of students scoring above a 3. So it's a tough thing to do. I mean, you know, most of the time if you're just going to increase your number of AP courses offered, there's a lot of kids who may struggle on those assessments, but our teachers have prepared those kids so well that they're doing well on the assessments as well. And you know, if you take an AP class, that test is optional. Those students don't have to take the test, they pay for that test. It's like $95. So if they pay for it and take it, I mean, we've increased our access to it, not only for our regular gen ed students, but also other students and minorities, all of those different breakouts of exceptionalities in kids, but we've also increased those scores. So huge honor. We'll have some banners, some web banners, and some things to roll out because that is a huge, big deal.
In a media, it's going to pick
Yes.
up on too. So.
Yes, we do have a press release, Sean, that we will get to you soon.
Are we looking at adding any more AP classes?
For this coming school year, we have not elected to add more AP. We're just going to continue to refine the AP courses that we have, make them, you know, better. Don't want to add too many at one time. And you have to have the right staff to teach those too. You know, the staff that they're really ready to go above and beyond. It takes some extra training, and it's pretty expensive.
To give you an idea how prestigious this is, there's only about 250 schools receiving this award across the country. Mm-hmm. And you look at the Kansas history, there's typically 2 to 3 Kansas schools every year.
Was this a goal of the districts, or did it just happen by chance?
It happened by chance. We had no idea this award existed, and here we go. Yeah, I mean, we purposely set out to offer more AP courses to challenge our students and better prepare them for college and career, and this just kind of was
part of that.
Yeah, it just happened because of those efforts. So.
Well, it's such a benefit because if you take this test and you don't have to do some of those gen eds in college.
Yes. And it's very rigorous, very rigorous. A couple of the other great things that have happened, the Kansas Music Educators Association, the Northeast Kansas Music Education Association High School Choral Teacher of the Year is Mr. Tom Gifford. He received that award Saturday in Topeka. We got a really good picture of him receiving that. That is a huge honor as well. Tonganoxie Elementary collected over 7,400 cans of food for the annual food drive. That's amazing. I love to see the big old flatbed they have out there loading up the food. And then the Battle of the Brains. We also have the High School Nutcracker Debate Invitational, Saturday, December 14th. Debate is one of those hard things. It's not really a spectator sport, so you don't get to see, but those kids put in a huge amount of work for that, and this is one of the best debate invitationals in the state. Also, we have the Madrigal Feast coming up Friday and Saturday. If you've not gotten tickets, it might be too late. They sell out every year. That is a wonderful event, and we're really excited about it. And that's all I have for, oh, no, I don't. Handouts. I have a couple of handouts there. The Kansas Can Star Recognition Program. This is a handout that explains what the awards are, and we did receive some awards here. There are 3 that you have. We received a gold star for the area of graduation. We have high graduation rates in Tonganoxie that we're really proud of, so we did receive the gold star on that. And then we received copper in post-secondary effectiveness, so how well our kids do in their post-secondary endeavors, which includes 2-year college, 4-year college, technical school, do they graduate or do they come back to school, that's post-secondary effectiveness. And then academically prepared for post-secondary effectiveness. So they go on to these 4-year, 2-year colleges, technical school without the need for remediation.
So this is, they're tracking them after they graduate?
Yes, and they've been doing that for quite a few years. I will bring some reports to you. They are very daunting to look at and read. So I have kind of a presentation or kind of a cheat sheet guide for you that I'll show you that will help explain what those are. But they started this, gosh, what was it, back in 2010? So they have data that continually gets better because of the length of time, but also they add more colleges every year. One thing they don't track is military, so if your students go into the military, they're not accounted for in that number.
As a success.
Yes, as a success, and some colleges are not on the list.
How's it, I mean, is this improved? Are the awards new? Or
These are
brand
new, yes. They're brand new, so this is the first time that we've seen them, the first time we've been able to qualify for them, and then this handout will explain what they mean.
So I know, like we brought up the Zillow thing and all that. I mean, it would be, this is like, some of this is actual data from the state that tells us we're doing.
It's great that
I know several schools in the area did not receive any, and they're kind of questioning, well, so they're not real happy about this process.
But we need to
so
advertise it.
So you're kind of comparing yourself to area schools again, kind of like we did back in the old assessment days, when we were putting banners up all over the place.
So on the,
kind of the same
for
deal.
some of these, where that compares to your schools, and, just, if we think that this is a effective way to measure, these categories, then
it's the state, so and we can look.
I'd be interested to know. Okay, well, we got a copper award for post-secondary success. Okay, well, is that a participation trophy or
no?
Like, I assume it means something.
Right, I thought the same thing when I saw how low the requirement was for copper.
Well,
I
was
thought, well,
surprised
everybody got that.
There are schools who don't qualify for any of those.
Okay, so that would be, I think.
It's better than
what
you
I
think.
would say. It goes to communications.
So this might be a little, I don't know, maybe not as kind, but it would be nice to put on there the local, I don't know, is there the ability to show like the people in our area that got it so that if people didn't, then they would be.
It will be publicized soon.
Not there?
KSDE is working on I think it's a 1-page or 2-page.
Do you know what I mean?
report
no, it's coming out.
So yes, it is coming. I just don't know exactly when it will be.
It's been
on
met
our
with,
site, we
it's
could say,
been met with some
Tonki's got it, and perhaps so and so
pushback.
doesn't. Yeah. If you want to move to a good place, this is it.
That's it. That's it.
All right, thank you, Tanya. Then I put us on item 6, just kind of, I guess, KSB recommended policy update review.
So, what I'll plan to meet is probably before the board meeting in January with Drew and I think Karen.
Yeah, Karen volunteered to be
And
on
then
that.
Tanya doesn't know this, but the four of us will review these. And I think that'll be a lot better when we come back with a recommendation. It'll speed the whole process up.
This one was pretty short.
Yes, this will be a pretty good one. So I'll set up a meeting with the four of us when we can take an hour or so to go through all that.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
All right.
Okay.
So then we'll have that as an action item then at the
Yes.
January meeting. Owner's rep.
Okay, I hope you've been kind of following along as I've gone through that, but I did contact all three companies. I let them all know when the interviews are and what order. They've all accepted. I told them that we were generating these questions, and I handed them out. I finished, thank you all for turning some of those in. Probably you see your questions on here. But in no particular order or prioritized. I mean, I just compiled it as best I could. And so my plan is to then tomorrow send this out to all of them. So all three of those will have at least a list of some of these questions to prepare for when we interview next Wednesday. And that's the next step. DLR and McCown Gordon will be in the audience, through the interviews, and I mean, they won't participate because they know that all three know that they're interviewing with the board. But they've all been told also, I mean, that we're going to probably need some time to,
The decision.
yeah, what's the next step?
We got the holiday
Yeah.
in there too, so we're gonna have to discuss.
Yes, the process, and what's the next step following the,
Yeah, I would probably entertain any feedback you guys have in terms of availability dates and kind of deciding whether to move forward or not, when we can. do that.
Availability within what date range?
well,
And that's kind of open too,
Oh.
because, I mean, we're interviewing them
Well-
next Wednesday, and that's the 18th.
are you all open to having, like, when we finish the three interviews, to have a little bit of an executive session to just kind of rehash what we saw
I think-
before we break?
Yeah, I think we should
So
do
we
that.
plan on a little extra time that evening.
Pizza.
And pizza, I guess. So any other questions? I mean, I think we're set, ready to go. Everybody's been great to work with, so. That's all I have
Can
on
we turn the heat on that day?
Yes,
It's
we would.
freezing cold here.
All right, so that would get us, that's all we have on that. Executive session, I believe we have a need for a couple short sessions. I'd entertain a motion.
Okay. So, make a motion to discuss non-elected personnel matters to protect the privacy interest of an identifiable individual for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Lauren,
Just invite Lauren and the
just
board
Lauren and the
in.
board.
Is there a second?
I second that. Can we go to the restroom first?
I'll allot some time. We don't start the clock until we give it 5 minutes for that. So all in favor of executive session as presented? All right, all in favor, and we'll take a 5-minute recess first before we adjourn to executive session. So, 8:13. All right, call the general session back to order. If there's no action to come from executive session, it leaves us to general board discussion, and we have one item tonight. And we need to recognize Michelle. I believe this will be her last meeting. And I don't know where best to stand
Probably back there
here,
by the books like we always.
You're gonna take a picture?
but Lauren's got one, I
I'll
think.
get a picture, but if Tom just come up, that'd be great.
Well, we have a little plaque recognition your 4 years of service. We appreciate that, Michelle. All right.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It was an honor to serve, so thank you.
Well, Thank you. With that, meeting's adjourned.